Stand by to witness the most awesome display of raw power on Earth. 15,000 pounds of fire and steel leap into the air and crush their way to glory in the ultimate battle of the monster trucks. ESPN and TNT Motorsports presents Turning the Power On. Video excitement as close as your telephone. Feel the thunder. Hear the deafening power of America's ultimate muscle sport, truck and tractor pulling. You've got a front row seat for the thrill of the monsters. Modified Superstock, modified four-wheel, super modified two-wheel drive, TNT Stomper Chevy, Jim Lyons, Ken Lamont, and the Wild Two-Wheelers. The Banter Brothers multi-engine pulling beast, and featuring the ultimate Renegade Monster Truck Challenge. Turning the power on. Now on video for only $19.95. Only through this TV offer. Order now and get a video bonus. The hilarious crazy car bloopers, upended monsters, collisions, exploding engines, and more on Turning the Power On. You can't have a better time for under $20.
Welcome to the power of TNT Motorsports. TNT Motorsports puts you on the front row, where you'll feel the thunder of the most powerful sport on earth, truck and tractor pulling, and the breathtaking spectacle of explosive monster truck racing. During the next hour, experience some of the most spectacular action these sports have to offer. Meet the superstars behind the wheel and learn about the sophisticated technology involved in these power-packed machines. You'll see the best vehicles and drivers, regulars at more than 100 events produced nationwide every year by TNT. So sit back and enjoy as TNT turns the power on.
The sun's waking up at the break of day, getting on down that old highway, try to make Nashville before midnight. Grab a cup of coffee for the road, big rigs pulling a heavy load, rolling on down, turning the power on. Rolling on down, turning the power on.
Singer Bobby Bare is right on target when he describes truck and tractor pulling in his song, Turning the Power On. Power is the name of the game in this sport, and there's highly sophisticated technology involved in making this power work. You're about to discover the power and technology of 4 different classes of vehicles: super modified two-wheel drive trucks and funny cars, modified four-wheel drive trucks, multi-engine modified tractors, and super stock tractors. We'll also meet the talented people who build and drive these machines. The rules of pulling are simple enough. One at a time, the vehicles attempt to pull a weight transfer machine, or sled, the length of a dirt track. The winner is the vehicle that moves the heavy sled the greatest distance. Let's take a look now at the operation of the sled and an equally sophisticated piece of machinery used for measuring the length of a pull. Here's Army Armstrong, the voice of TNT on ESPN.
The one constant piece of equipment used in professional pulling is the weight transfer sled. All participants must pull the sled. There are 3 main parts of the sled: the weight box, the main drive assembly, and the skid pan. Through the series of chains, the weight box, which is connected through a transmission through the rear wheels, once locked in gear, will come up at the same rate for every participant in the event. As the weight comes forward, we told you a moment ago about the skid pan, it puts more pressure on that skid pan, and that's what actually pulls the vehicles down. Now, the gentleman responsible for operating this, Mr. Ron Hickson out of Pennsylvania. Ron, the decision-maker sled, how do you make the decision as to how much weight you're going to use for each of the classes that compete on the tour?
Well, the weight's determined by the class, and I know just about what the vehicles and the class that I'm running, about roughly what weight it takes on different different tracks. It varies a little, but not much.
This afternoon in the modified tractor division, what will you be looking for as far as weight?
Oh, in the 9 modified today, it'll take 25 to 28,000 pounds in the box.
Okay, now 25 to 28,000 pounds in the box. What is the total weight when you put that box weight to the actual weight of the sled itself?
When the box is clear at the top, that's close 55,000 pounds on the pan that they drag on the skid pan.
So this afternoon in the modified tractor division, it's going to take 55,000 pounds to pull the multi-engine tractors down. Professional pulling used to be a game of feet. Now it's a game of thousands of feet. Due to the introduction of the laser measuring device, the front of the sled, a small mirror is located. At the completion of each run, an electronic beam is shot into that mirror, feeds back information that's put into a small computer, and instantly you'll get a readout of the distance of the pull to the nearest 1/1000th of a foot. High tech in the sport of pulling on the Red Man Tour.
One of the newest classes in truck and tractor pulling is the super modified two-wheel drive class. Here to explain the class is Ken Lamont of Crossville, Illinois, a former two-wheel drive national champion with TNT.
Okay, this vehicle here is a super modified two-wheel drive truck. Uses the same sled that the four-wheel drives use and the dragster tractors, the modified tractors use. The main difference in this vehicle over a four-wheel drive is the rear wheels is the only thing it does the pulling, which in effect gives it the wheel standing picture with the front end up in there and the wheelies. And it's really the funny car class of tractor pulling. Anything goes. As long as you can comply to the length laws, two-wheel drives is the only thing doing the pulling. You can run a supercharged engine on alcohol, no nitro, just strictly alcohol or gasoline. The vehicle weighs 6,200 pounds with the driver in it. Any clutch, any transmission. It's more or less the double B funny car class of pulling. It's just like we don't have any cubic inch limit like drag racing or NASCAR or whatever. Right now we have no cubic inch limit, so the only motor stipulation, it has to be a V8 engine. You can't run a turbine or an Allison or any kind of an aircraft engine. It has to be a V8 automotive type engine. The most critical part about a two-wheel drive is getting the front end weight right. I've run on tracks where I might run 4 of these little weights on the front, and then I've run on tracks where we might run 18 of these little weights on the front. We have got to make that decision ourselves. That's why sometimes you'll see guys come out and their front end will never come up in there. They were too heavy. Or you'll see guys come out and the front end goes straight in there and they were obviously too light. So that's the most critical part about a two-wheel drive. The second thing is probably the gearing, getting the right gear in for the right track. Some tracks you got to use a real fast gear where you turn your tires real fast. Some tracks you got to get it where you turn your tires slower to make it hook up to the track. And probably the third and one of the toughest things is actually the way we drive it off the line. We've all got hand throttles. We don't use our feet like in a car. We use a hand throttle like on a farm tractor. And it's real hard to drive these things coming off the line. It's kind of like driving a car out of a snowbank. If you've ever driven a car in the snow, if you take off, you go real easy and everything going fine. But as soon as you push on the gas real hard, it might stop. It just starts spinning. And that's the same way driving a two-wheel drive is. You've really got to have a good feel for that throttle. That's why we've all got hand throttles and not foot throttles, because you've got so much more control over your hand than you do your foot.
Lamont is just one of the stars in two-wheel drive truck pulling. Wayne Roush of Dublin, Ohio, campaigns 2 of the best trucks in the class and is always in the hunt for points championships. Roush holds a doctorate from Ohio State University, where he was a professor before giving up the academic life to pursue pulling full-time. These veterans are continually challenged by newcomers, such as Chuck Chitwood of Lafayette, Tennessee. Chitwood's success in recent years will only increase as he makes the transition from video store entrepreneur to professional truck puller. The biggest obstacle facing any of these contenders is Jim Lyons, a 5-time TNT national champion out of Louisville, Kentucky. A former world champion drag racer, Lyons also is renowned for his engine building skills. He builds top motors not only for himself, but for many of the drivers seeking to dethrone him as the superstar of two-wheel drive pulling. Modified four-wheel drive pulling trucks are popular among motorsports fans because they closely resemble the pickup trucks they drive. Pulling fans love to root for their favorite brands of trucks. But underneath those truck bodies are powerful motors that make modified four-wheel drive pulling the most competitive class in the sport. To make all four wheels turn, many drivers in this class use motors in excess of 700 cubic inches. These engines are not supercharged like two-wheel drive motors, but still produce around 1,000 horsepower. Weight distribution is not as critical in a four-wheeler, but strong chassis and drivetrain design is a must. Here's Army to explain how a four-wheeler is constructed.
The sport of pulling, the 6,200-pound modified 4x4, one of the most competitive classes we have in the sport. Kind of an interesting class. It's all important as to where you plant the weight. The ideal situation is to get as much weight on each tire as possible, weighing in at the maximum 6,200 pounds. You notice the mechanic's nightmare here. The frame, or the chassis, is constructed out of aircraft aluminum. You look at the holes throughout the aluminum. The driver said he had a tremendous amount of problems actually burning up drill bits, hardened drill bits, in order to get through the aluminum. The back of the truck, from the cab back, there's very little weight added. On the very back of the truck, what holds the weight of the rear tires planted to the track is the actual pulling sled. So you have 50,000 pounds of weight through a chain that's holding the back of the truck down. Now the problem is, how do we get weight to the front? We go forward, we notice our driver's compartment. You have a fuel tank sitting right behind the driver's compartment, your hydraulic that lifts the body. The driver, of course, sits in the middle of the frame, in the middle of the chassis. And then the engine, with all the safety equipment hooked to it, that engine is moved as far forward as the rules will allow. Now, the idea of the game is to get as much weight on the front wheels, the center line of the front wheels, forward. At that point, we come out to this bar right here. On this bar, during a pulling event, they will hang as much weight as the average automobile will have that drives up and down the everyday street. You got to weigh 6,200 pounds. Where do you put the weight? How do you put it on there? That's the trick. The ideal situation is to plant all four wheels with the same amount of weight. Mechanic's nightmare, he does it through an aluminum frame and hanging as much of his weight as possible all the way out to the 40-inch rule.
Compared to other pulling vehicles, four-wheelers are relatively inexpensive to build and maintain. More and more new four-wheelers enter the sport every day, making the class increasingly competitive. But a handful of pullers consistently remain near the top in TNT points races. Recent national TNT champions include Tony Osteen of West Greene, Georgia, Greg Cook of Mount Airy, North Carolina, Manuel Marino of Seguin, Texas, and Jerry Weaver of Thornville, Ohio. Modified tractors are the most powerful vehicles in pulling because of multi-engine configurations. Tractors with as many as 5 or 6 supercharged motors generate around 9,000 horsepower. The Banner brothers of Warren, Indiana, legends in the sport of pulling with 16 national titles, discuss how 6 engines work together on a single tractor.
The number one question asked in this sport, how in the world do you hook 6 supercharged Chevrolet engines together to go through 2 rear wheels? Dave, can you explain that to us?
Okay, well, basically the way we go about setting up 6 motors, we got 6 motors, but like these 2 motors here are bolted crank to crank. They're hooked completely right together. Whatever this one turns, this one has to turn the same RPMs. All right, that makes your one set up there, and it goes into a clutch, and it's a centrifugal force clutch, and as the motor picks up its RPMs, it engages the clutch. And then it goes down here and goes through a shaft, clear back to a gearbox. And that's the gearbox that we were talking about where there's 7 gears in it, and the rotation of the motors and the idler gears turns all the power and goes to the center. All right, then we pick up the power from this motor, and it goes through another clutch and goes down into that same gearbox, and with the rotation and the idler gears, makes everything turn the right direction once it gets to the middle. So you've got the same thing on the other side. So basically, we've got 4 power units. We've got 2 of the motors are single motors. The other 2 set up are crank to crank. So you've got 2 crank to cranks on the front, 2 single motors here. It all goes in to this one gearbox that we have built and designed, and that brings all the power to the center. It goes to the rear end, and that's basically how it's set up, and it's been working pretty good, you know, for this type of setup, the way we've got it set up these days.
Because the Banner brothers have more national championships than anyone, not to mention a pair of 6-engine tractors, they're always the team to beat in modified tractor pulling.
16 times national champion, you know you got to be considered a legend in the sport. How do you feel every time you go into an event knowing everybody's coming after the Banner brothers?
Well, I don't know how to explain that exactly. I feel like I'm going after them. You know, we've got more point championships than anybody else out there has, but we know how easy that they could get around us, and we know the equipment that we have compared to some of the equipment that they've got, and I know they can get around us, you know, so it makes it tough. It's kind of a hard question for me. I feel like in any sport, you need to go after somebody to beat. We have people that I don't want to name names, but we want to beat. And if we do beat them, we know we're going to be on top. And I'm sure they're the same way. That makes good for good compatibility. You know, if they're gunning for us, that's great. If they can get around us, well, we're going to work harder.
Fred Freeman is among the modified tractor pullers keeping the heat on the Banner brothers. Freeman out of Wadesville, Indiana, can mount no more than 5 engines on his mean mistreater, but is widely respected for his ability to win despite being outmuscled on occasion. Pat Friels of Ireland, Kentucky, appropriately named his expensive 5-engine tractor the Dollar Devil. Tractors like his often cost around $150,000 to build, with a single engine draining the pocketbook at around $20,000. The Banner brothers, Freeman and Friels, all use iron block Chevrolet motors, which are less expensive and less powerful than the aluminum block motors mounted on Paul Norman's war wagon. Still, experience is all this newcomer from Charlotte, North Carolina needs to be ranked among the crafty veterans. Here's a look at some of the other top vehicles in modified tractor pulling. The closest pulling vehicle to a farm tractor is the Superstock tractor, affectionately known as smokers. But looks are deceiving. While a stock farm tractor usually generates less than 200 horsepower, a Superstock pulling tractor is 10 times as powerful. Army asked Esden Lane of Dayton, Minnesota, to explain how he creates all that power.
You know, the turbochargers have come into motorsports in the last 10 years, but I have never in my life, Esden, seen as many turbos on one vehicle as we're looking at on your Superstock tractor.
Now, this is all different pressure stages here. These turbos here, they gather air, and it compresses it into another turbocharger, and then we just go and we get it compressed in another one before it goes into the manifold, into the motor on the stock block of this international tractor.
So the only piece that we're actually looking at now that is international is the block itself?
Yes, that's it. This is the stock block and cylinder head at the moment.
Out of curiosity, what is the total horsepower you're making right now with your Superstock tractor?
Oh, we're upwards around 1,800 to 2,000 horsepower.
When it comes off the showroom floor, so to speak, from international, what is the horsepower?
The stock one was like 160 to 180 horsepower.
Fans of Superstock pulling love to root for their favorite brands of farm tractors. The Gettinger brothers of Milton, Indiana, usually have more than their share of fans because they campaign 3 brands of tractors: International, John Deere, and Alice Chalmers. The Gettingers have won 6 national TNT championships. If pulling is the most powerful sport on earth, then those larger-than-life monster trucks make up the wildest of all motorsports. Join us for a hop, skip, and a jump through the latest phenomenon for monster trucks, bizarre side-by-side racing, and meet some of the stars of this new sport, the daredevils who risk it all. So buckle up and hang on for the ride of your life as we introduce you to the Renegades TNT Monster Truck Challenge. Monster trucks do much more than crush cars these days. These huge machines, armed with racing motors and 6-foot-tall tires, are now competing in heart-stopping side-by-side drag racing. The Renegades TNT Monster Truck Challenge is the world's only monster racing series. Drivers go all out because they're building valuable points at each of the 30 events toward a hefty year-end purse. Now, take a look at actual monster truck races in Hampton, Virginia and Louisville, Kentucky, as called by Richard Leake and Army Armstrong on ESPN.
You're ready for the semifinals, but two guys won't be there, Army. Bigfoot got beat by just showing off, but now he can't make it.
Just received word Hoffaker did severe damage to the rear suspension on the just showing off. He lost his rear steer, and Bigfoot goes out by losing the front steer on the trucks.
All right, so these guys, though, are in the semifinals. Local favorite, hero, grave digger. That is Dennis Anderson up against the rookie driver Rod Litzow in the USA 1 machine, waiting for the green to go off right now as the two are lined up side by side. First round of semifinal action.
Litzow trying to make a name for himself right out of the box, a little out of shape. Anderson takes advantage of it, Richardson. He's trying to lead him, and Litzow's in trouble. Anderson won't quit. He goes after him.
Dennis Anderson is going to get the win over Rod Litzow in the USA 1 machine. The local favorite may have trouble. You see smoke coming out of the back, though, right there of the Gravedigger machine. Smoke coming out of the rear compartment where his engine is. Let's go trackside with Army Armstrong and Dennis Anderson.
Well, Dennis Anderson with the Gravedigger, he is going into the final, but it looks like it cost you something. We noticed the rear suspension got a lot of oil or grease coming out back here. Do you have any idea what it is, Dennis?
Yeah, I think I just wasted my motor. I might have thrown a rod in it, and when I pulled up here, I noticed I lost oil pressure, and so I'm out now.
Well, we're going to have to wait and see a tough break, ladies and gentlemen. Dennis Anderson with the Gravedigger doing a super job in front of his own hometown crowd. Let's hope he can get back in this thing. Good luck, Dennis.
Well, Army, we just got word that, in fact, Dennis Anderson won't be back. That means the USA 1 machine right there of Rod Litzow, the rookie driver, moves to the finals against the winner of this matchup. And this is interesting. Carolina Crusher, which has won every one of his races tonight, up against King Crunch, who has yet to win a race.
King Crunch hasn't won a race yet, but everybody that beats him, they break when they beat him, and he advances up into their spot.
And on a foggy night, there you see the local driver, Dennis Anderson and Gravedigger, going slowly to his grave with a blown motor. Not in the finals tonight for Dennis Anderson. But these two guys are fighting to get to the finals. We're waiting for the green light to fall, and there it is, and off goes the Carolina Crusher.
What a hole shot. Again, working the left side earlier. Porter told us the left's the place to go. He's proven it. Stevens trying to come back on him. I don't believe he's going to hold him off, Richard. The Carolina Crusher sets up an old Chevrolet final.
All right, it is Gary Porter, the winner, over King Crunch and Scott Stevens. So now Gary Porter and the Carolina Crusher moves into the finals against the USA 1 machine, the rookie driver Rod Litzow. And earlier today, Army Armstrong spent some time with Rod talking about his machine.
Well, let me ask you, since it's going to be the first time out in the truck, you got to be a little apprehensive this afternoon. We've got a 7:30 start here chasing these Renegade points. What's going through your mind? How do you prepare? You're a long way from home. You've got about, what, $100,000 worth of another man's equipment. What's going through your mind right now?
Nervous, real nervous right now. Just psych myself up. That's all I put on my mind is what I'm going to do out there, try to put everything else out of my mind.
In what capacity have you been around the monster trucks?
Well, I was a custom painter, and I've taken care of the paint work, just traveled with it. Putting the tires on, I was, one of the crew for about 6 of those years.
The new kid on the block is coming after the old hired guns. He's going to see if he can battle with the big boys tonight, chasing these Renegade points.
All right, Army, so on a foggy night here in Virginia, we're ready to crown the king. USA 1 against Carolina Crusher, they're off.
Side-by-side Chevrolet final. Here we go, Richard, the first jump. USA 1 a little bit of a lead. Now the Crusher starts to come back on him. We're lining up for the second jump of cars. I don't know. They're both a little bit off course.
And across the finish line, who was it? It looked like perhaps on the inside, USA 1 had the little bit of an edge, but we're going to have to wait for the official word. Did Rod Litzow win his first ever race as a rookie driver? Yes, he did tonight. He's down with Army Armstrong.
This is your first time to drive the truck. You go right out on top. You beat the best in the country. Congratulations to you from all the fine people at Renegade.
Thank you. I couldn't have done it without everyone behind me that built the truck and that. The truck's running really good. It's designed to do this, and we're going from here. There's a good start, and we're going.
Let's go on with Richard and Army to Louisville, Kentucky, as they host the world's first monster truck figure 8 races.
We're ready for more quarterfinal round competition. Clydesdale against Awesome Kong.
Awesome Kong on the inside gets a good start. Clydesdale's going to have to really leg it to pull from the outside of the track. Awesome Kong right where he wants to be. On this part of the track, he works the bottom side. He can finish going to the outside of the track. Tremendous ground speed as he approaches the cars for the first jump, Richard.
Steve Dane out of Texas and Awesome Kong takes it up and over easily. Meanwhile, Bennett Clark and Clydesdale just getting across them. It's a nice lead right now for Steve Dane as he heads around turn 2, headed for the final car jump.
Dane exactly where he wants to be, working the high side of the track for the second half, approaches the cars for the finish line jump. It looks like he's going to advance to the next round.
He certainly will. That is Steve Dane from Texas. Awesome Kong, the winner here. He'll move into the semifinals. And meanwhile, Bennett Clark and Clydesdale coming across, but they're going to head to the pits and call it a night. But we're not going to call it a night yet. All right, we are ready to go. They're off and running, just showing off against Stomper.
Hoffaker gets a hole shot, puts a local boy in a bad spot. Witt said earlier he has the horsepower to come back on the second half of the track. He's going to have to do it. The Ford jumps on the inside lane. The Chevrolet's got to really dial the horsepower in now. It looks like he's coming on him, Richard.
Paul Hoffaker with the lead, but here comes Mike Witt. Mike Witt with a tremendous surge of power goes around Hoffaker.
Hoffaker has to go to the high side. Witt got to be granted from air to air. The horsepower seems to be working. He's hanging outside the Stomper Chevrolet.
All right, it's going to be a race to the finish now as Mike Witt and Stomper 1 heads for the final set of cars. He is up and over. Mike Witt is going to win it over Paul Hoffaker, and just showing off, Mike Witt and Stomper 1 is your winner. A tremendous race in Louisville, Kentucky. Let's go trackside with Army.
Mike, a super run between you and Paul Hoffaker out of Houston, Texas.
Thank you, Army. It was a real rough one.
We noticed when you came across the last jump, there was something that looked like bounced around. Do you think you had any damage on the run?
Well, I just noticed looking at the truck when I jumped out of it that the front drive shaft was broken universal joint. So depending on if I can get it fixed or not, depends on how I have to run in the final round, because with front drive shaft, you know a couple trucks have flipped before, so you can push it a little harder with the front drive shaft, so we'll wait and see.
Yeah, it's kind of a unique part of the sport he brings out. You've got to have the front wheels to keep pulling the front of the truck down once they land.
That sets up our final race and quarterfinal round competition. Bigfoot, a winner in the first round, against No Problem, a loser in the first round.
Bigfoot, one of the mountain motor vehicles. Rich Hoosier doing the driving, known as a Charger. On the inside, Moore, who advances by virtue of having quick round as a loser in the first round of eliminations. He's running him an awfully good race. Hoosier's got his hand full with No Problem.
Yeah, looks like No Problem is having no problems, or is he? Wait a minute. No Problem, and John Moore is backing off the throttle.
Moore backed off the throttle. Hoosier grabbed a handful, got a lot of air, and it looks like some blue smoke starting to come out from underneath Bigfoot, Richard.
All right, Bigfoot, of course, had a fire earlier in his first round of competition. Maybe a little bit of problem there. We'll have to find out. But Rich Hoosier is going to advance to the semifinal round as he is up and over the final set of cars. Rick Hoosier, your winner in Bigfoot, but is there a problem with that machine? We're going to have to go down and talk to Rich about that. Meanwhile, it's No Problem and John Moore easing across the final set of cars. Rich Hoosier and Bigfoot, your winner. Let's go to Army.
I'm going a lot faster on that far side over there, causing all the oil and the oil pan to get over on that side of the motor, which is coming out the breather on that side and splashing all over. We shoved a rag down in there so it'll still breathe, try to soak up some of the oil, but it seems like it's a little bit more still coming out.
I'll tell you what, the Battle of the Monster Trucks definitely living up to its name tonight, Rich.
Yeah, it's getting tough out here tonight. It's a long track, gives you a lot of time to catch up, and a lot of time for problems, too.
All right, so Bigfoot will take on this vehicle, the Stomper 1 machine of Mike Witt. And there's a lot of wrenching going on. Let's go down to Army Armstrong.
Gail Medford, one of the team drivers on the Stomper. Gail, what exactly is going on behind us with the vehicle?
Right now we've got a front U-joint out of it. We do have a U-joint, so we'll get it all back together and we'll be back.
Well, you will be back in action chasing the Fords.
We'll be back in action.
So now the stage is set for the semifinals. USA 1 against Awesome Kong.
USA 1 quick qualifier goes to the high side. I don't know, we might have a Donnybrook here. Awesome Kong holding him on his hip. He's pushed him to the high side of the track. Steve Dane lined up perfect. He's right where he wants to be, Richard.
Steve Dane out of Texas may be pulling off a big upset as he is up and over. Meanwhile, Rod Litzow on USA 1 is close on his heels.
A lot of RPM when he came off the jumps on the Chevrolet. He may have some type of transmission problem as blue smoke starting to appear from beneath the vehicle.
Meanwhile, watch Awesome Kong, Steve Dane out of Texas, trying to upset your top qualifier tonight, and it looks like he's going to do it now. USA 1 is out of it as Steve Dane and Awesome Kong goes for the win. He moves into the finals. This is a major upset, Army.
Definitely an upset as a quick qualifier of the evening. Looks to be having some type of transmission problems. The owner going over to check on the truck. Ron Litzow doing a superb job of driving it, but USA won. We'll have to wait for another day to go to the winner's circle.
Well, just because you qualify first doesn't mean you'll win it all, as we just found out. But now we're ready for the other semifinal. Bigfoot and Stomper 1.
Chevrolet versus Ford. This one alone is worth the price of admission as Stomper trying to hold off Rich Hoosier. Mike Witt on the inside, Hoosier on the outside, side by side as they approach the first turn. It's going to be a war. Bigfoot starts to come on him.
Up, 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 both of them. Look out for Mike Witt. He has flipped it. Mike Witt has flipped Stomper 1 and a Chevrolet. The safety people running over right now to him. Smoke coming from the machine. Army Armstrong has run down there now to check on his condition. Mike Witt and Stomper 1 probably could have won this race in that Chevrolet. He is out of it now. He is out of the car. Look on the replay how high he went up. Bounced down right onto the nose. Flipped over on the driver's side. Mike Witt is all right, unbelievably. But this means Bigfoot has won it, and really it was a lucky win because he had a flat tire, which meant that Stomper 1 probably could have won this race. Let's go down to Army Armstrong.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mike Witt for the second time in his pro career has gone head over heel high-sided the Stomper Chevrolet in one of the most gruesome flips we've seen. Now, Mike, number one, you're okay.
I'm fine, Willie.
I tell you what, a tremendous race going. Of course, your old rival, Bigfoot, you represent the Chevrolet camp, him the Ford camp. Can you tell us exactly what happened?
I really don't know, Army. No idea.
Well, we're glad you're okay. We're going to let you get back to his crew, ladies and gentlemen. The final is set up. It'll be a Ford out of Texas and a Ford out of Missouri. No love lost between these fellas. Steve Dane wants to put Rich Hoosier away. They come out side by side. Dane's working the inside. Hoosier's going to have to go way, way around. Dane drops down on that inside. Is working good for him, Richard. He looks like he might be able to hold him off as they get ready to go over the first jump.
Here comes Steve Dane and Awesome Kong. He's going to be the first up and over. Then here comes Rich Hoosier and Bigfoot.
Hoosier gets a lot of air, but immediately the Ford sounds a little bit different.
And he has shut it down. Something wrong with Bigfoot. He is out of it. Rich Hoosier has shut Bigfoot down. That means your winner, the champion in Louisville tonight, is going to be Steve Dane and Awesome Kong.
Dane motors across the final jump to take a well-deserved win. This kid has been pumped up. He wanted to win it tonight, and it looks like he's going to do it.
Oh, you can tell how happy Steve Dane is, popping out from the cab, waving to the crowd. There he is, your champion tonight, Awesome Kong and Steve Dane over Bigfoot and Rich Hoosier. We just received word that Rich broke the throttle linkage. Let's go down with Army Armstrong now and the winner.
Steve Dane, congratulations on a well-deserved win.
Thank you, Army. This is a tough track. First time TNT put on a figure eight. Takes a little getting used to taking left-hand turn, right-hand turn. It's a high-speed track. I had more horsepower, I think, just about everybody here. Me and Stomper got the bigger motors. I knew I could get him once I got in the flat ground. He has a good working suspension, that Bigfoot, and I had to get ahead of him to make sure I wouldn't lose any time over the cars. He must have had some kind of problem because after that last turn, I didn't see him, and I just backed out of it a little bit.
When you get to the final, it's a knockdown, drag out for that first place. Congratulations again.
Thank you.
So 3 major stories tonight. Steve Dane, the upset winner, and Awesome Kong. Bigfoot breaks in the finals, and Stomper has a tremendous flip.
The competition remained fierce the next day in Louisville as Bigfoot and Awesome Kong returned, along with Stomper 2, driven by Marvin Smith.
Quarterfinal round action to begin now. Bigfoot 4 with Rich Hoosier, your fastest qualifier, up against Casper of Dale Harris, who was the fastest loser in round 1.
Harris advances by virtue of being a quick loser in round 1. Rich Hoosier a little disadvantaged. He qualified quick, but this is the first time today, Richard. He's actually had to pair up with somebody, and right now, Dale Harris is making Bigfoot. Rich Hoosier work for it. Hoosier has to go high to make the approach to the jump. A little bit of a lead for Casper, but Bigfoot's coming back on him.
These guys are putting on a wild door-to-door battle right now, the Ford and Bigfoot. Rich Hoosier with the advantage over Casper and Dale Harris as Bigfoot is heading for the final jump.
A lot of chassis lean on Bigfoot. Harris keeps the pressure on. He's not going to give it to him. Rich is going to have to earn it.
Oh, look at Casper sky high. Take a wild ride down. Your winner's going to be Rich Hoosier in Bigfoot. The big Ford out of St. Louis, Missouri is going to move on. Meanwhile, what a great show from that gentleman, Dale Harris in Pearl, Mississippi in the Casper machine. The crowd loving every minute of it. Meanwhile, Rich Hoosier's got smoke boiling out of Bigfoot. What would that be from?
Some of the problems they were experiencing previously was the oil was running to one side of the engine and was not letting it oil the other side of the engine. You notice the kidney belt that he's wearing. These drivers take such an abuse, Richard, that they actually have to wear the kidney belt that's made popular in motorcycle racing.
All right, we are set to go now with our other quarterfinal round competition. It's going to be Awesome Kong and Jeff Dane going up against No Problem and John Moore.
Ford's a pair, one out of Texas, one out of the volunteer state of Tennessee. The one thing in common, they both won earlier today. Now, Dane gets a definite advantage by going on the inside. However, he still doesn't look to be attacking the track as normally the King Kong and the Awesome Kong trucks do, but maybe he doesn't have to. He's trying to save equipment maybe to get into the next round. He's in the lead. That's all he needs to be. John Moore experiencing some types of problems as he goes over the jump. Dane out of Texas motoring to the high side of the track. You can hear the engine. As a matter of fact, you can see the driver moving around almost like he's waving to the crowd, like he's not even worried about it. He's in the lead, Richard.
Dane and Awesome Kong thinks he's got it wrapped up right now as John Moore's No Problem is having some kind of problem. Here comes Awesome Kong over the final set of cars. He is going to move into the semifinals. Dane, your winner, and Awesome Kong as John Moore from Lafayette, Tennessee, is going to have to load up the No Problem machine and head back to the volunteer state. He's out of it as he will no longer move on into competition. But moving on will be the Awesome Kong machine to take on Bigfoot and Rich Hoosier. And Army, I don't believe what I'm seeing right now. Rich Hoosier is down with these crunch cars looking for a part.
He and his crew chief, George Smith, they lost an oil plug, and they found them one right now. Where do they find it? In the crunch car. So Hoosier has to get back with the crew, put it together. Speaking of crews, the Louisville Motor Speedway crew getting the oil off the track. Hoosier hustling back up to keep the Bigfoot monster in action. And speaking of action, look what we have here, Richard.
Paul Huffaker and Marvin Smith. Stomper 2 is taking on Just Showing Off.
Stomper 2, some kind of problems earlier in the day, had problems in the wall. He was able to pull it back. It's not going to work this time, but that's a break for Huffaker. He jumps out with that Texas-based Ford, but the truck seems to stop. The engine is breaking up something terrible as you hear it come to life and then die instantly. Huffaker works the outside. Smith going to try to pull him back for the Chevrolet fans as Smith will pull the Stomper on the short side, the inside part of the track. As we approach the finish line, Richard, back to you.
Well, Paul Huffaker is slowing down to almost a snail's pace. Is it going to be fast enough, though, to hold off Marvin Smith and Stomper 2? Yes, it will be. Paul Huffaker, Just Showing Off, is having some problems, but he still advances to the semifinals. And here comes Stomper 2 and Marvin Smith as he finishes and waves to the crowd. He's out of it for the day. Paul Huffaker moves on. Let's go down to Army.
Paul Huffaker, the engine was breaking up all the way through on that run. What seemed to be the problem?
I don't know, Army. Let me check something real quick.
Okay, definitely a heating problem on the Just Showing Off for Huffaker. He's trying to get into the finals of this thing. We're going to let he and the crew get right back to work.
Back in Louisville, Kentucky, semifinal round of competition underway, but really no competition, Army, as Awesome Kong and Bigfoot were supposed to go at it. Awesome Kong broke at the start line.
Boy, a tough break. The young kid out of Texas trying to make a name for himself. The transmission just finally gave away. With the 1,000 horsepower engine and 20,000 pounds of weight, something had to give. He'll be back another day.
So your winner, Rich Hoosier in Bigfoot 4, he moves into the championship round. Let's go down with Army trackside now to find out what happened.
A tough break. All the way over from Texas, trying to make it 2 in a row on the Renegade Tour. Do you have any idea what went wrong?
Well, qualifying, I busted my rear drive shaft, and every pass I took, I was busting my transmission line and kept breaking.
So there you see the transmission fluid pouring out from underneath the Awesome Kong machine of Steve Dane. He's out of it. Bigfoot moves on into the finals. Meanwhile, it's going to be in the other semifinal competition. Paul Huffaker and Just Showing Off against, surprise, surprise, here comes Casper again and Dale Harris.
Remember we told you earlier, Richard, in this competition, the quick loser in the previous round comes back. Well, Harris out of Mississippi's back, but believe me, he grabbed a hold of a rattlesnake out of Texas right now. Huffaker wants to get a hold of Bigfoot in the final, and he put a hole shot on the Mississippi Toyota. Huffaker wants to make it an all-Ford final as he approaches the first jumps.
Just Showing Off is up and over, but here comes Casper putting on a late charge.
Casper wants to get a shot at him. They're getting together, awfully tight up in the corner. Casper's into him. Hoffaker had to shut down. Casper keeps moving, and Hoffaker sets injured up in that number 4 corner.
All right, what is the Renegade TNT rules on competition like this?
What it states specifically is you must stay in your lane, and it looks like that the Mississippi truck went out of the lane. Casper, I believe, will draw a disqualification by virtue of running out of the lane. Remember, he started on the outside. He had to crisscross or go over. When he crisscrossed, he got into the vehicle. As you can see here, Hoffaker locks the brakes up, does not make contact with the wall. That's to his advantage. I don't believe there's any major damage to the vehicle. We're going back to you.
Well, in fact, Casper has been disqualified. Paul Huffaker, just showing off, moves into the finals against Bigfoot. And earlier today, Army spent some time with your national points leader, Rich Hoosier of Bigfoot.
Now, Rich, at the beginning of the year, you guys jumped way out on the competitors. We're at half season now, and it looks like they're starting to close back in on you fellas.
Yeah, they're closing in. The competition's getting tough. These guys are coming out here with a little bit more than just putting on a show. They're building up their motors, and they're realizing what they have to do to their trucks to make them last through these courses we've been running through.
You as a driver, what are you looking for? The Renegade circuit, the TNT people are putting together different types of courses. You got straight courses, you got U-turn courses, and then tonight in the competition or this afternoon, you're going to be going on a figure-8 course. How do you adjust your truck there?
Well, it's kind of hard because each of them is different. A lot of guys will run a straight axle in the rear. Of course, we run the rear steering all the time, and it makes it a little bit stronger for your straight courses. But then when you come to somewhere you need the turns and you need that rear steering, the guys with the straight axles won't do as well.
Okay, now what are you going to do? You're talking about keeping your truck on top of this thing. You are the points leader. You know they're closing in. We're at half season. What are you and your crew going to do in order to stay out in front of this thing?
Well, we just keep trying as hard as we can, and hopefully we can just keep on winning. These other guys are coming up real fast, but I still got a little bit of a lead on them, and if I can still get first or even second, even if you get second, you're still up there good on points.
Rich Hoosier's teamed up with the Bigfoot operation to Bob Chandler. They're number 1. The question is, can they stay there?
Well, the question right now, Army, in Louisville, Kentucky at the Louisville Motor Speedway is, can he be number 1 at the finish line here? The championship battle between Bigfoot and Rich Hoosier and Paul Huffaker, and just showing off. There you see the track officials saying they're lined up and ready to go.
Huffaker wants Hoosier. This kid's trying to make a name for himself. We told you the story about him. He started at the bottom. Now you can't get any higher than this. You're going for the number 1, running the number 1 truck. Huffaker will try to put a hole shot on him, and he does. What a hole shot. Hoosier out a little bit late. Huffaker jumps to the inside, trying to hold Bigfoot on that left hip. But believe it or not, that's exactly where Rich Hoosier wants to be, because he makes a wide turn as he closes in on a jump. Keep an eye out for Bigfoot. I believe he's coming after him, Richard.
Here comes Bigfoot, up and over both of them. A wild ride, just showing off in Bigfoot. The two Fords battling for the championship in Louisville. Right now, Rich Hoosier has the advantage as they head for the final jump.
Huffaker works the outside. You'll notice Hoosier actually looks over his right shoulder to see where Huffaker is. He's coming across to put another win on the Renegade Tour under his belt.
So there's your champion. It is Rich Hoosier. The crowd loves Bigfoot wherever he runs. Rich Hoosier out of St. Louis, Missouri, crowned the king in Louisville this afternoon. Paul Huffaker, and just showing off his second. You see him popping the hood on that big Ford motor, getting some air. Army Armstrong is down with Rich Hoosier to describe the winning run.
Well, and it's been tough. We've had to work hard this weekend. A lot of good competition coming out these days, and makes us just have to run even harder.
Tell you and the crew have been thrashing all weekend long, keeping everything going.
Yeah, and I'd like to thank everybody that helped, Don and Bob and George and Harold from down in Nashville, and a bunch of great guys, and they're a lot of help.
Well, I'll tell you what, ladies and gentlemen, monster truck racing at its best. Right now, we're going to check, see if we get Paul Huffaker. Paul, come here, son. Congratulations.
Hey, good run, man.
Second place finish. Congratulations.
Well, thank you. Hell, track's getting rough out there. I didn't know if my front tire was going to stay on or not. I've been having problems with the split ring, and it made that whole pass with nothing holding the wheel on but the air pressure.
Which tire was that now?
Front driver's tire.
Oh, what a show. The monster truck's doing such a super job in Louisville, Kentucky. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for being with us. The Renegade Tour moves on.
That was Renegade's TNT Monster Truck Racing from Hampton, Virginia and Louisville, Kentucky. You'll see many shows like it, as well as the Redman TNT All-American Pulling Series, weekly on ESPN. The racing you saw there was relatively tame compared to some of the mishaps that occur in monster truck racing and truck and tractor pulling. Here's a look at the thrills and spills from TNT events across the country. Then we'll talk to a few of the monster truck drivers who have joined the so-called Flip Club. Meet four of the drivers who have flipped monster trucks while racing with TNT. Dale Hancock of Evansville, Indiana, went end over end while racing in Freedom Hall in Louisville, Kentucky. Here's his reaction just after the mishap aboard Crimson Crusher.
Well, I knew I was in trouble. I was on the brakes, and it was standing up on its nose. And I was scared. I knew I needed to get back on the gas, but I was scared this crowd was right there, and I couldn't see them. So the only thing I could do was just keep stopping, because I was afraid if I gassed it, I'd run over them.
Jim Kramer of St. Louis, Missouri, is recognized as perhaps the best skilled of all monster truck drivers. But even the best get out of control on occasion. His Bigfoot truck flipped at a high rate of speed at the Hoosier Dome in Indianapolis, Indiana.
I didn't have a front drive shaft, as you know. I couldn't get on the gas and help myself out of a bad situation. And I tried to let it coast out, but there was so much momentum and my tail end was coming over the top that had I touched the brakes, it would have just thrown me over. So the best thing I could do is ride it out, which I did. I just didn't have enough going for me.
Those who have seen several monster truck flips agree that the most spectacular tumble occurred in Pueblo, Colorado. Here's Scott Stevens of Woodlands, Texas, driver of King Crunch.
The race started off pretty good. I was pretty sure I could get Stomper off the line, And I kind of was ahead of him through leading through the first set of cars. And I knew he was going to be really fast at the big end. And right there, coming off that first set of cars, I seen him driving right on by me. And right about right there, I really leaned on the gas, and it jumped real funny. And I guess about right there, I'd done decided it wasn't going to come out of it, so I shut the motor off in the air, because I knew it was going to flip over. And after that, I was just concerned where it was going to end up stopped at, and I wanted to get out of it as soon as I could.
Stevens has had more than his share of monster mishaps. King Crunch crunched a starter's light stand and generator in the Astrodome in Houston, Texas, then lost a wheel.
Okay, well, this was the first night out with this new truck. It was the lightest truck we've got, and has more horsepower, and we just were trying rear steering only through the steering wheel, and I'd already figured out every time I mashed the gas, the rear tires would turn. But I thought I was close enough to the ramp there. I knew I was going to get B. I thought I could jump good, and I mashed the gas, and it went to the left as quick as anything, and plowed right over through the starting light and ran over the generator. I thought, well, that was the end of it. Then I couldn't tell what had happened to the truck, so I looked up at the big diamond vision there in the Astrodome, and I looked back, my back tire wasn't even there no more. And I knew it was over with. Just try to get out of the building. I knew the truck was hurt pretty good.
Mike Witt of Mount Washington, Kentucky, has turned his Stomper Chevrolet onto its top not once, but twice. The first occurred indoors in Charlotte, North Carolina. The second outdoors in Louisville, Kentucky.
We're running King Kong for the semifinal round to enter into the final round. The winner moves on. And it's Ford versus Chevy, which has been played up all weekend. So King Kong jumps me off the starting line just a little bit, and with our motor, we've got enough power that we can power him on the upper end and catch him. And in the process, the truck gets to bouncing very bad over the cars, and the back wheels eventually just climb over the front when I gradually get on the brakes, which you can just barely see the concrete wall right in front of me. And with that in front of you, you will have a tendency to put your brakes on just from reaction, not knowing you're doing it. And I come out of the truck real quick, as you can tell. With racing Bigfoot, he always comes off the starting line very fast, and since we're running a new motor this weekend, I knew we could come off pretty hard, but I wasn't expecting to even be beside him that close. I knew I was going to catch him on the straight stretch, and when I was in front of him right along in here, it really surprised me. In our curve, you had to slow down just a little bit more to make the hairpin curve, and as I head down the straight, I really get on the throttle to jump the cars, and in that mud it starts throwing me sideways just a little bit, and as you can tell, the truck does a wheel stand all the way across the cars, and coming off the cars, I got on the throttle again and didn't even realize the truck was rolling over until it stopped. Is how quick it happened.
We hope you've enjoyed learning about the Redman TNT All-American Pulling Series and the Renegades TNT Monster Truck Challenge. The chances are good TNT will bring a pull or monster truck race to your area in the near future. And you can bet we'll be turning the power on.
Held it low, rolling on down, turning the power on. Rolling on down, turning the power on. Engine revved up and it's ready to go. Gotta get it right, can't be too slow. See the lightning, hear the thunder roll. Spinning wide, crowd the track. Pulling to the right, gotta bring it back. Rolling on down, turning the power on. 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 Big motor burning up the track, chasing the dream, never holding back. Rolling on down, turning the power on. Rolling on down, turning the power on.
Stand by to witness witness the most awesome display of raw power on Earth. 15,000 pounds of fire and steel leap into the air and crush their way to glory in the ultimate battle of the monster trucks. ESPN and TNT Motorsports presents Turning the Power On. Video excitement as close as your telephone. Feel the thunder. Hear the deafening power of America's ultimate muscle sport, truck and tractor pulling. You've got a front row seat for the thrill of the monsters. Modified Superstock, modified four-wheel, super modified two-wheel drive, TNT Stomper Chevy, Jim Lyons, Ken Lamont and the Wild Two-Wheelers, the Banter Brothers multi-engine pulling beast, and featuring the ultimate Renegade Monster Truck Challenge. Turning the power on. Now on video for only $19.95, only through this TV offer. Order now and get a video bonus. The hilarious crazy car bloopers, upended monsters, collisions, exploding engines, and more on Turning the Power On. You can't have a better time for under $20.
This is ESPN, the Total Sports Network.